King Samir Shabazz and his fellow new Black Panther Party members see their mission rooted in a tradition of revolution started in the 1960s. Los Angeles, California, summer of 1965. Following the arrest of a black motorist for drunk driving, the predominantly black neighborhood of Watts explodes. When the Watts riots subside 6 days later, 34 people are dead, 4,000 people arrested, and an estimated $100 million in property destroyed. By 1967, poverty, inequality, and racial discrimination spark over 100 similar riots in U.S. cities. Violent racial unrest sweeps the country, and a new militant movement emerges. At the forefront is an Oakland, California group called the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense.
The original Black Panther Party was founded in October of 1966. It's coming on the heels of the assassination of Malcolm X. It's emerging on the heels of the Black Rebellion in Watts. There is a sense in which the citizens of Oakland feel under siege. They're looking elsewhere to imagine a politics that will allow them to respond to the conditions of their living.
The Panthers, led by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, break with the nonviolent methods of the civil rights movement, advocating instead for armed self-defense of the black community.
The Black Panther Party said that in order for black people to be free, the American government and the American structure had to be completely rent and reconstructed in a revolutionary way. To think that you are going to seek freedom from your oppressor is ridiculous. To think we're going to march and say no justice, no peace from now to doomsday is an absurdity. So once you understand that, and now a mechanism is in place, a guy named Huey Newton stands up and organizes other men and women, and they patrol the streets and they say, this is what black people know of the government, justice on the street.
The original Black Panthers were not a separatist organization. They didn't want to leave the U.S. They wanted to reinvent it. Their rallying cry was Black Power. They combined black nationalism with Marxist philosophy and sought to overthrow the U.S. capitalist system of governance.
And by revolution, we meant the end of capitalism. We meant the institution of a socialist-like scheme. We said that we were communists. We were also black. We believed in black people.
Black people saved!
Using mass organizing tactics like rallies in poor neighborhoods, Panthers swell from 400 members to over 5,000 in 1969. Their belief, all power to all the people, helps them form alliances with other radical organizations, including those run by whites.
All power to all the people. There are 6 billion living human beings on the face of this earth right now. It has evolved to be such. You know, and it is not about just one ethnic group. You cannot even talk about African American people's community and human liberation unless you talk about all people's human liberation.
The original Panthers, what they really truly were about was trying to kind of uplift people in tough situations. You know, they also explicitly reached out to work with other races. They worked with the Young Lords, Puerto Ricans. They worked with all kinds of white leftists, and they really did. There really wasn't racist rhetoric about whites, you know, all white people need killing. I mean, it was very explicitly about the power structure.
Enforcing their right to bear arms, however, caused the Panthers trouble, and they became embroiled in numerous armed confrontations with the police.
We were always expected to defend ourselves, and that's what the Black Panther Party was and remained. There was always in place a rule that you just didn't get taken out by the police with your gun. You know, if you had a gun, you're supposed to defend yourself, return fire. You're not supposed to, nobody in the Black Panther Party, not at any point, thought you were supposed to lay down your gun.
They drafted a 10-point plan that called for adequate food and housing, an end to black service in the military, and the release of blacks from jail. They also served their community with many needed services and social programs, such as a breakfast program for poor black children, a free ambulance service, and legal aid. In the early 1970s, after years of arrests, conflict with police, intensive pressure from the FBI, and infighting within the group, the Panther organization eventually disintegrated. Panthers founder Huey Newton descended into drug use. In the early morning hours of August 22, 1989, Newton was shot dead on the streets of Oakland, in an area inhabited by drug dealers. Original Panther member David Hilliard still visits the spot where his friend was killed.
Huey got killed in front of this house right here. In the wee hours of the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, he was killed here by a drug dealer. I started immediately trying to figure out a way how to save the best of what our party represented. I wanted people to not reduce Huey to the last 5 years of his life. He was much more than that. He was a drug addict, but he was also the founder of one of the more impactful organizations in the history of human and civil rights struggle in this country. That is the Black Panther Party.
The Black Panthers achieved prominence for their community programs and their policy of armed self-defense and violence. But they also redefined Black power in the 1960s by making a break from Martin Luther King Jr.'s tactics of nonviolence.
History, I felt, would substantiate that the destruction of the Black Panther Party marked a tragic episode in the struggle of Black people in America for freedom. The Black Panther Party was probably the greatest effort that Black people in America have made for freedom.
Today, members of the original Black Panther Party continue strengthening their legacy. They remain vocal advocates for the Black community and still gather to protest the continued imprisonment of fellow Panthers.
We believed in Black people. We saw that as our subjective interest. And that is what its legacy is that we did stand up. We did fight. We have seen and met people today who are still alive, who not just fought the police, but who stood up and put their lives on the line and said, this is what I'm here to do.
Next, borrowing from the legacy of a group from the 60s, a new Black Panther Party emerges and gains a national presence under a charismatic and controversial leader. In 1989, over a decade after the demise of Huey Newton's Black Panther Party, the new Black Panther Party was started in Dallas, Texas. A local radio talk show producer resurrected the name and gathered a group of blacks who took up shotguns and marched against a school board official who used a racial slur against black students.
The new Black Panther Party was started when there was no Black Panther Party. It was started by Brother David Foreman and Brother Aaron Michaels in the late 1980s because they believed in the Panther. They believed that the struggle that Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, who founded the Black Panther Party in the 1960s, should be continued, and that the spirit of liberation, the spirit of revolution, and the program of self-defense and community development should live on.
The new Panthers used the militant rhetoric and confrontational style of the original Panthers, but abandoned their core principle of all power to all the people.
And Black Power. Yo.
Instead, the new Black Panther Party kept the Panther name, but added a fiery brand of black separatism, black nationalism, and anti-Semitism.
You already know what you want to know.
Their hatred of the Jews stems from a belief that blacks are the true descendants of the Hebrews of the Bible. They also believe that while blacks and Jews have both struggled for equality in America, the Jews have risen and abandoned the blacks. The new party and their militant tactics attracted a small nationwide following during the next several years.
In the beginning, New Black Panther Party held a youth rally, and they invited Tom Metzger, who's the head of the White Aryan Resistance, and they both agreed, the white supremacists and the black supremacists agreed that they should be separate and live their own lives.
Militant and at times hate-filled language has been a core component of the new Black Panther Party since its beginnings. But the rhetoric intensified under Dr. Khalid Muhammad, who became the group's de facto leader in 1998.
And Black Power.
when the New Black Panther Party teamed up with Khalid Abdul Muhammad, who was a former NOI spokesperson. The hardcore anti-Semitism and racism really became part of what was attractive to a lot of people about the New Black Panther Party.
Khalid was the national spokesman for the nation's leader, Minister Louis Farrakhan. His outspoken rhetoric made him a hero to some young members of the NOI.
Khalid Muhammad was a firebrand. He was charismatic. He was powerful. He resonated with young black people. He resonated with the hip-hop generation. He was a force to be reckoned with in many ways outside of the Nation of Islam.
I say to the Jewish people,
The Nation of Islam, a religious organization, was founded in 1930 and claims to promote Islamic beliefs and black pride. But in 1993, Khalid brought pressure on the organization when he gave a speech at New Jersey's Keene College and referred to Jewish people as bloodsuckers and the Pope as a cracker.
perpetrating a fraud, just crawled out of the caves and hills of Europe, so-called Jew, make you believe that you are not the chosen people of
His
God.
remarks were so strident that Khalid was censured by the U.S. Congress. In response to the public outcry, Minister Louis Farrakhan suspended Khalid from the leadership of the Nation of Islam.
I found the speech vile in manner.
The Nation of Islam wanted him to tone down his rhetoric, and Khalid Muhammad found a space where he could say what he wanted to say without someone telling him that he needs to tone down his rhetoric, and that organization was the New Black Panther Party.
Wake up, clean up, and stand up.
In 1998, Khalid became the de facto leader of the New Black Panther Party for self-defense.
I was at a meeting of the New Black Panthers, and I observed a speech given by Khalid Muhammad, where he said that you should not just go into white people's houses and just kill the white man and his wife. He said you should go into that bedroom and find that little white baby and stab him in his chest. I looked around, there were about 200 or more people in that room. Of course, I think that anybody in here might be crazy enough to do that. And you always ask yourself the question, what's the effect? Will that have a positive effect on a movement or a negative effect? I don't think anybody can conclude anything but that it would have a negative effect.
A black man cannot be a racist. A racist means to have prejudice plus power. You cannot show me where whites were imprisoned, where they were discriminated against, where they were denied opportunity against because of his words. His words were spoken out of pain and suffering for an oppressed people. They're two different standards.
Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power!
Minister Khalid Abdul Muhammad made his transition to the ancestors.
Black power!
Black power.
Khalid died in 2001 of a brain aneurysm, but his teachings and beliefs still guide the New Black Panther Party.
And he'll be the devil tomorrow. Black power!
Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad will always remain our mentor and always remain our ideological standard bearer. He is the master teacher of black nationalism and Pan-Africanism and revolution in our midst. Even though he's not here, it is our duty to carry his word and legacy on. He not only talked about it and talked the talk, he walked the walk. And he organized and stood up black men and black women, and he never cowed down in the face of opposition.
Black power! Black power!
In 2001, Malik Zulu Shabazz was named chairman of the party. With a law degree from Howard University, Zulu Shabazz seeks to reshape the organization into more of a social activist group.
The leadership has decided that they can have an impact with street theater. It's much more difficult to actually go into a community and try to door-to-door deal with some kind of education about HIV positive rates that are rising in the inner city of Detroit. That's not glamorous. It involves knocking on doors. It involves trying to organize people. It's much easier and more glamorous and romantic to put on black uniforms as a 1960s Black Panther, put on black gloves and put your fists in the air and get on TV. That's easy.
That's police brutality!
Really, what I think is going on with Shabazz is that what he really does, which is look around the country for, hot racial situations, is exactly what the Klan groups and the neo-Nazi groups do. The fact is that Shabazz has been connected to, the most militant, the most racist people in the black nationalist world for pretty much his whole career.